Yeah, if you guys didn't see the chat, I did post in there that if you did happen to attend on the 10th, this is going to be mostly redundant, but the Q&A part of this might always be a little bit different depending on who's in attendance and what questions they have, obviously. So Laura, as you probably all just saw, is recording this one. So if you have a colleague that wasn't able to make it today, I believe it'll be later this afternoon that she'll send out a link for anyone that wants to review it. And of course, you can always reach out to me if you have questions. All right, looks like it's a couple minutes after. I think we can get started. Like I said, we're recording this, so if you're late, you can always catch up later on. So what I'm going to do here to start, I'm going to go through the technical PowerPoint. This was included in the product launch. As many of you know, but I think some of you weren't aware, this was only launched to a select set of sales folks. So it was our Midwest outside folks as well as all of our direct territory folks, and then a lot of internal groups as well. The formal broad everybody gets it launch will be done here on the 21st of September. At least that's the plan, assuming all of our software continues to cooperate with us, but it'll be right around the 21st of September. And again, this will all show up in the app, all the content that we're going to talk about, the sales tools that are available, and so on. So let's get at it. Feel free to pop into the chat with questions at any time, or unmute yourself if necessary. We'll go from there. All right, so product launch. So we'll start out with what's included. So we've got up to 5 wire cord sets. Think of like your RK 4.4, 4.5T type products, as well as the C body, the 18 gauge. That's all available. We have nickel plated brass as the standard coupling. As you can see in the image on the right here, with and without the Turck sleeve. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes if you aren't already familiar with it. We've got straight, right angle, both genders. There's lots of inventory of these. Plastic coupling nuts are also available, and those are an acetal or Delrin type material. Also included are the up to 5 wire receptacles. Similarly, nickel plated brass housings, 316 stainless, 316L stainless, the good stainless steel. We've just decided to default to that rather than have different variants like some product lines have had in the past. I think for the most part we have standardized our stainless on 316L, but I don't want to speak out of turn for some of the other products I'm not intimately aware of. Front and rear mount is available with M16 and PG9. PG9 was the historical standard, so like an FK 4.4 or an FK or FS 4.5. Those were PG9, still available. Would be the exact same mounting hole as we'd always used, but we've also added the M16. Oh, go ahead. Did somebody have a question? Okay. We have front and rear mount in the M16 and the PG9. M16 seems to be a trend that a lot of Europe is going to. The PG9 is an old pipe thread, and I think it's a DIN standard. It's not super commonly used other than M12 receptacles, it seems. So in the front mount, we have an M20 mounting thread as well as the 1/4 and 1/2 inch MPT. Again, all of those are available in stainless steel and nickel plated brass and up to 5 wires. Key features and benefits of the redesign. So we've got more cost-effective production. I know there's been some feedback in both directions on the pricing. The list prices are pretty similar to the legacy Eurofast right now, but what you're going to see is over time that the legacy is going to have to go up, and probably early next year when we do our next price increase, there'll be a pretty significant increase in the legacy M12 pricing. We should be able to hold the redesign flat given how we've gone to market with this and been able to actually reduce our costs by all the material consolidations. One of the big new things is our patented Turck sleeve that I've mentioned and will continue to mention a few times throughout this. This is a differentiator. It's Turck exclusive with the patent on it. It makes installation, I think, a little bit easier. It's easier to grab onto. You also wouldn't necessarily need a torque wrench unless you want to hit a real precise torque. Then, of course, the wrench is going to do better, but this kind of does the job, much cheaper included with the product. It's not a separate piece necessarily. We've improved the ingress protection, so all of the new M12 has an IP rating of 67, 68, and 69K, as well as the NEMA ratings that are listed. It was a little bit more mix and match. All of the phase 2 stuff that's not yet released as part of this launch will also have those same ratings. That is a requirement for the redesign. Lead times should be a lot better. We've got a lot of stock on this. We control much more of our production processes on these from top to bottom. So I think we're going to be in a lot better shape in the long run on minimizing lead times and being able to do unique or different configurations than what may be in stock or in the catalog. Key industries and applications, we always have to put something like this in their marketing materials, but the gist of it is it's an M12 connector. They are used everywhere. Very common sensor actuator connector. Probably the biggest market for a circular connector in the world, I would have to guess. So the technical specs. So the cord sets, as everyone probably is aware already, the default is black overmold with a black cable. That is the standard for our PVC, which was the standard RK4.4T, and then our TPU, which would have been the S90 products. All of our 18 gauge products are listed at 5 amps with the 250 volt, 300 DC ratings. That is the UL listing. The new part descriptions we'll touch on in a little bit. That'll help us differentiate the old from the new, and hopefully with the new part numberings may seem a little daunting at first, but I think you'll agree once you get familiar with it that it's a lot easier to configure what you need. You won't have to keep cheat sheets other than maybe just a part number key as a reference to figure out what that product is when you're looking at it, or to, like I said, spec out something new or a new configuration. We've converted to a technical data sheet from our old source drawings. A lot more data on there, a little more, I would say, professional, modern looking. We've got detailed product specs, as I mentioned. The flex rating is listed on there as an example, detailed mounting hole specs and things like that for the receptacles, which I'll touch on again in a minute. We've also improved the shock and vibration resistance. I think you're going to find it's a lot more consistent than the legacy products. There was a lot of different plug bodies that didn't necessarily perform the same. Some of the features were built into the overmold, which can be a little bit harder to control versus in a component mold situation. The coupling nut for brass and stainless, as well as plastic, all have a hex as well as a knurl. The body design has changed a little bit. There's a keyway indicator on the straight plugs, which has a tactile grip on it, so you can actually feel where the keyway is, which kind of helps for blind mating. And we also have UL, CSA, CE approvals on all of this. RoHS 3 is mostly compliant. The challenge right now is the lead-free brass. There's been an extension on the requirements in Europe to have that available. UKCA is also pending. Most of that will be pretty easy to do. It's basically the same requirements as CE. It's just updating all of our documentation and labels and things of that nature. And then, as I've mentioned a few times, and again, we'll continue to mention, we've got the Turck sleeve, which is used on the cord sets. So patented, exclusive to Turck. Like I said, it's a tactile click when you get the proper torque down on it. It generally works. We have had some issues as we were ramping up, so you may have a few mixed cords in there that are a little bit hard to turn, but for the most part, you'll be able to get it to cam over when you have enough nominal torque to get the IP rating and vibration proofness that we would want. It's available factory installed. You'll see that in the part number, how to get it. It's also available as an accessory. So the default color for the factory installed one is yellow, but we have the other 8 colors that you can see there in the image on the right. There's no list price adder for a yellow, and there's a video that'll go through the how to remove and install it, touches on the color options and things of that nature as well. And that's available on the YouTube channel. So receptacles, once again, all the IP ratings are on the receptacles. I think the old IP rating was typically 68 or maybe even only 67. We've decided to go with a gasket instead of an O-ring to do the panel seal. Negligible cost difference, but it actually allows for a lot more tolerance in your mounting hole. And you can see off to the right there, that's an excerpt from one of the data sheets where it does give tolerance cutouts. And then you can also see the silhouette of a right angled cord set here. That just kind of shows you how relative to the panel flats the standard right angled cord set would dress out. So that could be helpful for a panel layout for a machine builder. And the flats are only available on the PG9 and M16 versions. All of the other ones would just be a straight round with the MPT and the M20. Let's see, what else do we have? Lock nuts included, installed by default. There is an option to have it removed if you're preferring not to have it or if you're not using it, whatever. But the default is to have it included and installed. We found that when we put it loose in the bag, people would throw them away way too often, or not be able to find them, those types of things. So it is on the receptacle housing as a default. And again, there's options to have it removed if that's what's needed for your application, for your customer. There's a product change notification that will be part of this. So that goes through a lot of the details. So there's a spec comparison table. This is an excerpt from that product change notification document. There's also dimensional comparisons, things of that nature that would be included in the product change notification. If there's anything that you guys need to see that you're not seeing, again, always reach out and we'll see what we can do to add it. Odds are if you've got the question, somebody else probably does too. So. The new product line has nice landing pages that are made to work with the website, the Turck.us website, not the old Turck website that a lot of you are probably familiar with and maybe even still using. A little more details right on the cover page. You can download a data sheet as well as a CAD model, see some relevant accessories that might be available for the products for cords and receptacles. So the new part numbers, like I said, a little more daunting maybe at first glance, but like I said, I think it will make it a lot easier to differentiate. We won't have duplicate products necessarily in the system, which I think will help, minimize lead times and clutter in the system to help us plan and make sure that we've got stock available to build what you need, or stock, just built to stock products that you can buy directly. Everything starts out with an E for Eurofast, then we get into the gender and then the plug style. This will be expanded on as we release additional products. So refer to the B2401. I think that was released a few months ago in one of the newsletters. It's an insert a couple pages into that. You'll see M12 Redesign as the heading, and the cords and the receptacle part numbers are in there along with all of our other product lines, connectivity product lines. Let's see. Yeah. So as I mentioned, also the coupling nut configuration here, we've got includes the Torque sleeve. So this component would be a T. If you don't like the Torque sleeve or prefer to, do a different color at install, you could put a B there and then buy the Torque sleeves as an accessory. Under the cable series, I tried to be smart with the cable series. So far, we've been able to kind of adhere to a standard. So it starts out with kind of a cable family. It moves into what the jacket material is. The next step would be kind of a cable construction. So what are the wire gauges? We've got 26 characters and 9 digits to work with. I forget what the total was, but it was, I believe, over 1 million possible permutations of that. So we've got a lot of room to work with those 4 characters. And then the last, and in some cases least important, but not always, is the color. So I feel like, the cable family, you're going to see cables with generally the same properties, same flex ratings. Does it have a drain, not have a drain? Is it a welding cable? Those types of things. And then, like I said, material construction. So it's intended to kind of go from most important to least important. So if you're just looking for something that's readily available and in stock, that might be a guide you could use as far as, I just need a general purpose, what's in stock. You can use that as a key with, the general wildcards and so on. Similar for receptacles, everything starts with an E, then we get into the mounting type for front versus rear mount. Gender, again, nickel plated brass versus stainless steel. The mounting thread, I mentioned the option to not have a lock nut on there, so you would add a 0 to the end of that segment of the part number. Again, 4 and 5 pole A code. The pinout codes are the same for cords and receptacles. So if you see a 02, it's the same pinout for the cords versus the receptacles. It's actually the 402 would be the differentiator. The number of wires also plays into the pinout code. And then, of course, ends with the length. We will still use some S numbers, but I do think we'll be using a lot fewer of them. It'll be more about packaging, maybe unique tolerances, things like that for more custom products, but not necessarily private labeled custom products. So along with the Turck sleeves, we do have a decal strip, and that's pictured there. Most of you should have already seen a demo kit. It was a small off-white electrical enclosure, about 4 by 6 inches, with a male and female on it. That decal strip is included there. There's a couple that were peeled out and kind of put onto the box as a demonstration of what how they can be used. That single material has all 9 colors. I am working on getting strips in each of the 9 colors, so there would be 9 sets of stickers, all blue, all white, all orange, etc. And then within there, you'll see a few different sized rectangles. The larger rectangle fits directly on the junction boxes, the Turck blocks, the MB12Z junction box, the field bus stations. There's a smaller rectangle. You could use that for the same purpose, put it on a sensor or whatever. If you guys have needs or wants for things like that you think would be helpful, reach out. They're fairly inexpensive parts, pretty easy to set up as far as tooling costs and that type of thing. So let us know how we can help sell more of our cords. So the competitive comparison. So our pricing, I think we're not the most expensive on the market necessarily, especially not nowadays. I think everyone's prices are kind of going up with the changes in supply chain, lead times, costs of raw materials, those types of things. I think we've got a little more features than everybody else. Our breadth of offering is pretty good. Phoenix has more stuff, but a lot of it's kind of weird stuff, the 17 pole, Y code, some of those types of things. If you guys see needs for that, the new M12 line is definitely more conducive to expanding than some of our previous offerings where we had different sources where we were getting contact holders from China or Europe. You know, we have a lot more control of that. Our component tooling is a lot more modular. So if you see a need for some of those variants, you know, reach out and we'll kind of evaluate the market opportunity and the technical feasibility and see what we can do. As always, I think our skill has always been, or our differentiator in the market has always been, our openness and ability to customize our products. I think the new M12 line really lends itself really well to being able to customize, or even I would call it configure, where you can kind of mix and match the pieces, a lot more modular than anything we've done before. I mentioned the demo a moment ago, so that's the picture of the demo that we sent out. If you didn't get one, you can see the number there, that 100 million number for the full demo. You can also order most of those pieces as standalone parts. And you know, if you lose something or what have you, I did set up that Turck sleeve demo without that ring. So that's I forget what I called it, the all colors pack, I believe it is. But if you search M12 Turck sleeve in Turck Connect and look for inventory, you'll see all of the new ones that are set up, as well as the 10 packs of each of the individual colors. So yeah, sales resources. So here's all the tools that we put together. I've mentioned a few of these already, the Turck.us website landing pages. You can use the sample program. Again, there's a ton of stock of a lot of the 1 and 2 meter extensions, straights to right angles, females, pigtails, pretty much anything that was in the stocking program in the legacy design. Not pretty much, everything that was in the stocking program in the old line is available in the redesign in the stocking program. The legacy M12s are going to be removed from the stocking program when phase 2 is launched. We have taken out a few of them, like the black cable, black jacket in the legacy design. Those are already out of the program. I mentioned the demo. We have a catalog specific to the redesigned M12. That's probably going to be getting an overhaul later next year. We've kind of been feeling our way through a new standard for connectivity catalogs. I think you guys might be familiar with the B2007. That thing was a big catalog with everything connectivity, but doesn't lend itself real well to a digital environment. If you're trying to download that on your mobile phone, you might sit there for a while finding the right pages and so on. So it'll be smaller catalogs, more along the format of the B2301. We've got the part number key, like I mentioned. It's part of the book now. There was a standalone single page early on. It's all been consolidated into the one book, so that's a little easier for us to update, easier for you guys to keep bookmarked, and always have the updated keys for all of the connectivity products. The FAQ document, that was just updated last night. Laura republished it. So if you have the link will go to the new updated document. I've added a table of contents that summarizes all the questions, and I also added about 5 different FAQs based on the survey that went out, and various questions I've gotten from folks in the last few months about the new product line. I believe I mentioned the promotional video, the how-to video for the Turck sleeve. Again, on the YouTube channel, there's a cross table that does part number to part number from the old to the new. So if you're used to looking for an S3415, you can go and look and get a cross reference to the new one. There will be a bigger list that we're working on that will be published when we start to phase out the legacy design. And that will be more ID to ID number, more direct cross references. So distributors could upload that into their systems, for example, and that way they would know what to order as the old products begin to get phased out and obsoleted. There's a battle card as well that's kind of a high level refresher. What I think that was best used for. So you're getting ready for a sales call. You haven't looked at the stuff in a few weeks. Quick reminders, high level bullet points, and then some hot links to other documents that will be maybe useful to bring up in your conversations. And then there's the shorter PowerPoint as well. Product training. So here we are. That's what I'm talking about is these. If you guys feel like there's additional content that would be valuable to go through, I'm more than happy to do this presentation with you and a distributor or important customers. We can also tailor it to whatever need you might have. And if there's information you guys would like to have that we haven't touched on so far, we don't touch on in all of the literature that's been made available, let me know, and maybe I can put together a different webinar that might be useful for all of you to help make the conversion to the redesign and help us sell more gourds and receptacles. All right, so looking ahead, most of this stuff is going to be active by the end of this year. We're just starting to ramp up some of it as far as making sure we've got the raw materials, getting the manufacturing transferred down to Turck, Mexico. That would be the 6 to 12 wire products. So we'll have an 8-pole and a 12-pole contact holder in just the A code. It's all that exists. X code won't be touched. That's a whole separate animal. Even though it is an M12, and that's also not talking about M12 power, which is also different. So your S, T, and L code products, and I believe K is another one that we'll be working on in the future. Separate animal for M12 power versus the signal or sensor actuator connectivity. LED cord sets are also going through activation right now. So we've got 2 and 3 color for the signal, and then there's always the power LED. Shield tied to the coupling nut. We're working on a high flex shielded cable. I was hoping to have that ready for our launch here, but the lead time on the cable is almost a year right now. So we'll have that hopefully middle of next year, probably that'll be available. So that'll be like a Flex Life 10 or a 10 million cycle shielded cable with the shield tied through the coupling nut. B code is actually active right now. So if you do need a B code, refer to the part number and key for finding those. If you don't see a configuration, reach out. Almost anything is possible. Of course, we'll let you know if there's something that's not feasible and when it might be available, if there was something unique about the wiring construction, that type of thing. And then the field bus media and all that, that'll probably be the end of next year. Laura will be managing that, but all the pieces for that will be together and ready early next year. We'll get the signal stuff ramped up, and then the field bus stuff will follow that shortly. There'll be separate product launches and notifications on all that when it becomes available. All right, well, that's all I had on the technical presentation and overview. Open it up to questions. Guys have anything you'd like to know that we didn't touch on?
There's one in the chat, Lewis.
Oh, I'm not seeing the chat. I must have clicked something. Here we go. All styles are IP69K. Yes, Trevor, that is correct. Everything right angle, straight. When we launch the shielded and LED cords, they're all going to have the IP69K rating. Anybody else?
Hey, Lewis, this is Jeff. I noticed, I've only been with Turck a year, so I'm not sure. I noticed when I'm looking at alternatives, let's say I'm looking for a 7 meter, just for example, I'm driving because I'm not looking, and the alternative will pop up as a 10 meter.
Yep.
Is that commercially how we're going after the business, is just that way versus asking for a exact 7 meter to get the pricing that we need or some competitive pricing?
That's a great question. In fact, that's one that I added to the FAQ. We can absolutely do a 7 meter. The alternative was intended to be a variant that we're going to keep in stock. So 7 isn't real common, but 10 is real common, and it kind of covers a swath of lengths. So the alternative is meant to be a version that should be in stock, and if it's not in stock right now, it should be very soon because they're set up with built to stock parameters. So we're always trying to replenish a certain stock level with those. But if you go in Turck Connect and you're like, well, I don't see my 7 meter, I only see a 10, just reach out to customer service. We have a process that will automatically generate that 7 meter. It's faster if you see, say, the 10 meter already exists. It's almost instant. It's a couple minute automated process to generate a new length. So you get the new ID number, all the bills of materials, routings, et cetera, get updated with that. So yep, any length you want is absolutely an option, but the alternative field, the length would be based on something that's in stock. You may also see like a straight recommended in place of a right angle. And that's just, again, because we don't have that one as a right angle available, but we do have the straight version. So it's a functionally equivalent product that would be most likely in stock.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? No? Are you guys familiar with where to find all of the content in the My Turck app? So when we do the broad launch, you're going to see it under agendas. Right now, that's not available because you guys are a select group that was able to see all this content first. So you just have to go to products, connectivity, product launch kits, and then right at the top, you'll see the M12 redesign. So this is all the content that I mentioned, those sales tools. So the catalog, there's also a link to the in-stock program. So this is all of our in-stock, built-to-stock materials. The product change notification, like I mentioned, battle card, the FAQ, the link to the video, etc. So that's where you can find it now. And then come, like I said, September 21st, there'll be a campaign. So it's a little bit easier to find, but it's not too bad how it is. Anybody else? Questions?
Pretty straightforward, Lewis. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
So the timeline for the other pin counts and everything, is that still going to be accurate, or do you have any other information you can give us on that?
Yep. So most of it's just about active. I don't think we have too many technical hurdles to overcome. So I'm fairly confident that we'll be ready to formally launch that probably at the end of Q1 of next year. Some of that stuff's already available. You'll see active part numbers in Turck Connect, and you can order samples of it. I have seen that we've had some weirdness in the system where things that aren't quite ready to be sold are showing up in the system. But if you have questions, reach out, to me or to customer service, and we can let you know what's available right now. But like I said, the B code's available right now. Some of the 8-pole and 12-pole receptacles are available. The rest of them, I believe, will be done in a few weeks. Mostly low volume, I would say. I wouldn't go after big programs with any of that until the formal launch comes out. So when I say they're active, I mean we have all the parts, the bombs, the routings. We just may have limited stock on the raw materials to build those. Most of the raw materials are used, the same. It's the same coupling nut regardless of your pin count for a female brass, right, or a male brass. It's all the same one regardless of the pin count. But there's some unique things like the contact holders or the contacts for those higher pole counts. But yeah, I'd say the end of Q1 right now looks pretty feasible based on our current status for all of that stuff.
Okay.
Anything else?
Maybe go over, Lewis, how to cross part numbers in Turck Connect.
Sure, that's a good point. 1 second here, I'll get myself logged back in. All right, so in Turck Connect, I think it was Jeff had mentioned the alternative. So you can go to the inventory prices screen. Your stuff might look a little bit different than what I have, but so we'll just do an RK 4.4 T dash whatever. So there's if you don't see this alternative column here on the right, you can turn on your column visibility. It's this guy down here on the bottom is alternative. See that? And then you can see what the alternative is. So you'll see, okay, well, this one does have stock. We'll pretend it doesn't. We'll click on that guy, and now it brings up the alternative. So this is the redesigned equivalent. Like I said, you want to be aware of the differences. Just do a comparison of the data sheet to make sure it does work for you. But again, the point was that this is in stock and available, and now you can see the stock level for that alternative there. We are planning on expanding the use of the alternatives to other product lines, and with a similar purpose to try to steer you towards something that's in stock. Like, okay, I don't want to wait whatever it is, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks for my 7 meter, but the 10 meters are available today. So. Anything else you guys want to talk about while I got you on the phone, or otherwise we can certainly hang up and move on about our days. All right. Well, going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully you all know how to get a hold of me. If you have any questions that come up, reach out to the inbox, customer service, or myself directly as you need to, and we'll be happy to help you out. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Louis.